This is no ordinary owl. It's a fake. It sits high above Bamford in Rochdale, Greater Manchester, silent and still, but it serves an important purpose. Always one for the most painfully niche topics possible, bordering on the utterly boring and mundane, I thought I'd look today at these avian imposters and the important job they do. There are two main users of these plastic owls. One is British Telecom, the other is the Electricity Board, or organisations that fall under that umbrella. Bird poo is annoying. There's nothing worse than cleaning your car, only to have it splattered with white stuff soon after. British Telecom employed decoy owls to scare birds such as starlings away. Due to the brightly coloured berries they eat, their droppings are a horrible colour, and it annoys residents when their cars, gardens and faces end up covered in it. They mount plastic birds atop their telegraph poles in an attempt to scare away these pesky starlings. The power companies fix them atop pylons too, or partway up, to help stop flying birds killing themselves by colliding with electric wires. They also stop birds getting tangled in conductors cutting the power supply. They're a handy tool to stop other birds nesting on pylons as well. This one got local residents talking in February 2006. The Three Owls Bird Sanctuary in Norden was inundated with calls about it, and it was only when they sent a falconer to investigate that they discovered the truth. There are a few surviving examples of telegraph pole-mounted owls. The nearest one to me is a 120-mile round trip, which seems excessive for one or two shots, but bear with me. I'll run through a few I managed to find. It's hard using Google Earth to tell exactly where they are or if they're still in place, so if you know of these or any others, let's get a list going in the comments so other nerds like me can go and spot them. Agnes Holbrook called in the assistance of BT back in March 1998 when she got tired of birds perched on the telegraph pole by her home defecating on her washing. The weapon up BT's sleeve was a plastic owl, and they mounted one on the telegraph pole in Gordon Place, Bridge of Don in Aberdeen, Scotland, and it solved the problem straight away. A load of decoy owls were installed on telegraph poles in the streets around the Avenue in Deanside, Seaham, County Durham in November 2002 to scare starlings away. One of half a dozen in West Yorkshire installed on telegraph poles was in Knoll Lane in Bradford. Another was installed in Edge Hill in Huddersfield in around 2003, both to scare away starlings. Keith Jennison complained to BT in December 2002 after dozens of starlings littered the pavement outside his house with poo. The decoy BT owl installed soon scared off the birds, leaving Keith's pavement excrement free. You can still see the owl in place on Northway in Fleetwood, Lancashire on Google Earth. Before we look at pylons, it's not just telephone poles on which decoy owls are employed. 15 owls were mounted on the old Mecca Bingo site in Gorton, Manchester in May 1999. 75-year-old John Evans watched what he thought were real owls for a while before calling in the Manchester Evening News, who were disappointed when they arrived to photograph them. They were installed to scare off seagulls and pigeons. Amazingly, some still survive to this day. The Piccadilly Hotel in central Manchester was plagued by pigeons on its car deck. Faced with big car cleaning bills or expensive deterrents like netting or electric wires, they opted for 6 15-inch decoy owls to scare the pigeons away in January 1990. They seem to have gone in the 35 years since. This owl was put on Adlington House in Underbank, Stockport, Greater Manchester in January 1991 in response to the roof being covered in pigeon muck. I couldn't find any record of this property whatsoever, so I can't say if it's still there or not. Some owls were installed in Middleton Gardens in Middleton, Greater Manchester in early 1997. The council claimed they worked in getting rid of the pigeon problem, but within an hour, one pigeon was seen cuddling up to the owl. Most pylon-mounted owls ended up being mistaken for real birds. An eagle owl foxed a police officer and a falconer as it perched 60 feet above Stanley near Ilkeston, Derbyshire on this pylon. A motorist spotted the bird in April 1991 and suspected it was Thor, an eagle owl which escaped in December 1990 in Nottingham. It apparently attacked 2 Rottweilers the week prior to this suspected sighting. The motorist, the police officer and the falconer watched the owl for an hour as it perched motionless on top of the pylon in Coronation Avenue. They called East Midlands Electricity for permission to climb up and bag the bird, but were told the owl is plastic. It's been there for 5 years to scare other birds. Glengormley residents who had been watching a large bird nesting on an electricity pylon above their homes in the Glenvarna estate were told by the USPCA that it was a rare eagle owl which had probably escaped from a private aviary. Among the avid bird watchers were local councillors, but neither they nor local residents, who nicknamed the owl Ollie in December 1992, ever saw the bird leave its perch high on the pylon. This isn't surprising, since it was a decoy put up by Northern Ireland Electricity to frighten birds off the line. A group of schoolchildren were fooled in October 1993 when they saw an owl perched on this pylon off Edge Lane in Crosby in Merseyside. Fearing it had escaped captivity, the pupils from Thornton County Primary School reached out to the local community, only to have their inquiries answered by Manweb, who had recently put the ceramic owl on the pylon. You can see a large bird on the pylon in Google Street View, but this is in fact a real bird of prey and doesn't appear on any other dates. One woman spent 2 days trying to organise a rescue operation for an owl which was motionless on an electricity pylon near her home in February 1996. It was 4 days before she discovered it had been put up by East Midlands Electricity 80 foot up the pylon off Doncaster Grove, Long Eaton, Derbyshire, to scare off starlings. A less convincing owl was put up in Churchview, Lawrencetown, Northern Ireland a few months later, in September 1995. Local residents had been complaining about the bird poo on their cars, and so the NIE put up the owl in response. It had a few of the locals confused for a while. One other in the area blew away in strong winds. I don't know what became of this one. Radio towers have also been known to provide a perch for decoy owls. There are 2 cases I know of. A 100-foot radio mast on the top of Leyland Police Station in Lancashire was plagued with birds until the force deployed their secret weapon, a 2-foot high plastic owl called Helen, in November 1994. First results were not encouraging. A daring group of starlings descended on the tower just as the television cameras had arrived to film Helen in action, but the birds soon got the message. A similar tactic was used at Kirkham Police Station in Lancashire in the 1990s too. The owl, nicknamed Ollie, was mounted on top of their 60-foot radio mast. There was an owl on Crosby Coast Guard Station until fairly recently. Being right on the seafront, its roof is a prime target for resting seagulls and scavenging pigeons. I'm not sure it was that effective though. On a side note, one man was arrested and charged with harassing a pensioner's pigeons by scaring them off with a plastic owl and singing in December 1997. Martin Ward, 35, was locked in police cells for 3 hours after he was detained following claims that he was waging a vendetta against neighbour Tom Thornton's 16 racing pigeons. Ward of Rawmarsh, South Yorkshire, was accused of hanging a one-eyed plastic owl in his garden, singing "Come Fly With Me" at the top of his voice, and throwing a ball. He was charged with harassment, but after appearing before Rotherham magistrates, the case was dropped. If you know of any more locations of telegraph pole or electric pylon mounted decoy owls, then let us know in the comments so we can get a list together. I'm going for a lie down.